the whole thing's going to start collapsing. And the other thing is, at the Centers for Disease Control, there's a lady named Stephanie Bailey. Stephanie Bailey is the chief of public health practice. It's her job to address cross-cutting issues, and she needs to come out against fluoride. And you can send an email to her. People can contact her. It's Bailey, B-A-I-L-E-Y, and she needs to hear from people. She's not asking me to do this, but I think since she works for all of us, as you know, us taxpayers, she needs to hear it. It's Stephanie.Bailey, and it's Stephanie, Stephanie.Bailey at hhs.cdc.gov.
What are some of the best places for fluoride poisoning research?
FluorideAlert.org is a site that I think has one of the most comprehensive and best information. It's FluorideAlert.org, and they have just a wealth of information for people who want to learn more.
We're talking to Masters in Public Health, Daniel G. Stockin. Look, to me, the big story here is that their house of cards is starting to collapse.
It is.
I get so many emails and calls every day saying, I thought you were a kook a decade ago. Now I know it's true. I read it in, American Scientist, or I read it in Reuters. I saw it here. My doctor told me about it. When the American Medical Association, American Dental Association admits children shouldn't have it. The house of cards is starting to collapse. And I want to point out, it's not like the Nashville local news channel was New World Order. It's not like these people all believed in the system. It's not like, New Scientist or American Scientist or Reuters. The actual writers were New World Order or globalist controlled. They were ignorant. That this whole house of cards, not just on fluoride but on everything, stands on people believing the system, stands on people not questioning, and now that trust is gone. That's a good thing. We shouldn't trust these people, and folks are starting to now poke around, and it's not just going to be fluoride. It's going to accelerate through 1,000 different issues.
Yes, absolutely, Alex. What's happening is that the fluoride thing is uncovering other things that should have been brought to light before, and I can't emphasize enough that Fluoride Gate. We've had Watergate, we've had Contragate, now we've got Fluoride Gate. It's got a whole bunch of people looking over their shoulder right now, and there's a whole series, the whole system, meaning the system of nonprofit organizations like the Kidney Organization and the Diabetes Organization, the government agencies, state and federal, et cetera. That whole system is predicated on our trust in it. And when this gets exposed, and it is being exposed right now, it's just really starting the acceleration is occurring.
Let me tell you a story. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, really heavy fluoridation. And I remember as a child, my parents ate pretty healthy. I ate pretty healthy. And I was in athletics. And I remember every morning brushing my teeth, and I'd feel great. And then I'd get a horrible headache after. I'd feel exhausted. And I instinctively started using just a tiny bit of toothpaste, and then no toothpaste. My dad is a dentist, oral surgeon. He'd say, and by the way, I've had one cavity, but I have basically perfect teeth. And I stopped using fluoride when I was about 18, just when I started learning about it. And my dad thought I was a kook. Now he knows the truth and admits he was wrong, and they were giving propaganda. But, physically, it wasn't Pavlovian. It wasn't a placebo effect. It wasn't psychosomatic, because I didn't know what fluoride was when I was 10. I just knew I'd get sick every time I brushed my teeth or when I drank tap water.
Well, you can't argue against that kind of a situation when you proved it to yourself. I get calls from people around the country, all over the place, all over North America, who had similar situations where they stopped drinking fluoridated water, the most amazing changes, or they stopped using fluoridated toothpaste. And we get large numbers. And for me, the one that, kidney dialysis patients, for instance, they're about 4 days away from dying on any given day if they didn't have dialysis again. And I had another lady I know die recently who was on dialysis, relatively young lady, and something snapped in me because you can't tell me that fluoride helps your kidneys. And
the research is it's the biggest causative factor, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't know that it's necessarily the biggest. It's one of the big ones. And the issue is that we're not being told it. And that kidney patients, they don't know when they're eating bread they're getting a dose of fluoride, or raisin bran they're getting a dose of fluoride. And, people have kidney stones, and so they're drinking a lot of water per their doctor's suggestion, and they're accumulating 3 to 4 to 5, 6 milligrams per day of fluoride. And, about half of it stays in your body, a little bit less than if your kidneys work well. And if your kidneys don't work well...
Think about how this piles up. All the bone fractures, they knew that again in the 20s.
Yes, a lot of the information was known from early manufacturing processes, but now we know the Chinese have figured this out. They have a whole bunch of studies that show that the intellect is affected, and they call 1 part per million, the level that we fluoridate at, they call that high fluoride. And so, I mean, so many countries other than
And they
US,
discovered it because of their industrial process of what it did to the population.
Well, actually, they have some well water over there that has an awful lot of naturally occurring fluoride.
And you end up with 20% of the children being retarded young.
Well, they've got brain issues. They've got brain issues. They've got something called skeletal fluorosis. And, you know, if any of your listeners are seniors and they have joint pain, I don't know if you know that the first early painful stages of something called skeletal fluorosis mimic that of both rheumatoid and osteoarthritis. So if you went to your doctor and your doctor said you got joint pain or stiffness, and the doctor said to you, oh, you must have arthritis, if they didn't check your blood or your urine for fluoride, which isn't necessarily completely indicative, but if they didn't even look into it, you may have been misdiagnosed. Instead of having, you know, arthritis, you might have skeletal fluorosis.
Well, we're talking about grams and grams of this a day, building
milligrams.
Up milligrams, I mean, building up over time. I mean, and just a massive levels. It's just incredible, and that's why we had you on. I'd like to have you back up for a full hour, part 2, with more solutions on this front. But God bless you, Mr. Stockin, for the work you're doing. And we, again, just really want to thank you and others for the awakening that you're causing.
Well, you're sure welcome, and thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get some medical doctors on. We're going to get a Nobel Prize winner on. We had him on about 7 years ago. We're going to get him back on. And we're going to continue, because this is somewhere where we can take control of our lives. Now, there is no doubt the same people that will take foster children, by over 4,000 of them, and radiate them to death are the same ones putting this in your water. They know exactly what it does. The Nazis used it. The Soviets used it. That's mainstream information. That's everywhere. Totally documented. Now, does that, for police officers listening, do you understand who runs things? I know you think the system's good because you're part of it, so it must be good. You're compartmentalized. We know most of you are good. I care about you. Police officers, this is happening to your children. I'm begging you to tell your mothers and fathers. I'm begging you to tell your children. I'm begging you to do whatever you can, because if we make them take the fluoride out of the water in the big cities and small towns, it'll stop being in our food. Make a market for it. Demand that it say fluoride-free on the bread, fluoride-free on the juice. I'm begging you, ladies and gentlemen. This is just one way they're hitting us, and hitting us hard. Now, this is 100-year chemical attack science. I got stuff from 1905 on it. This is 100-year chemical attack. The Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Endowment, all of them. They went and they funded tens of millions of their own money. Do you think the Rockefellers did it? The funders of Hitler and the top and the man-eugenicist organization over in Germany, the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. Do you think they spent millions of their own money because they love you and wanted you to have nice teeth? Are you that stupid? These people are cold-blooded control freaks. They have robbed me of much of my intellect. They caused me to be sick every day as a child with a headache after I brushed my teeth. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that 5 minutes after I brushed my teeth, I would feel horrible. And God, I wanted to be a good boy and do what my dad told me. I would brush my teeth so good. I would scrub them. And God, I'd get sick every day. I'd be sick on the school bus. We don't have to live like this anymore. They've robbed us of so much. They've hurt us so bad. They've hurt me. They've hurt you. This is not our government. These are murdering killers. And they built this technocracy up, and the Ministry of Defense and the Pentagon documents and all of it say that the enemy is the people now. They say they put up the cameras. They develop the tracking grid, the cashless society. They're the ones litigating and financing to push through mercury and everything else in the vaccines. They're the ones that keep the regulations open so they can engage in all this pell-mell genetic engineering with the potatoes and the corn and thousands of different varieties of staple foods, beans, green peas. They put insect, other animal, other plant DNA. It randomly shifts. It gives a new amino acids above the 54 natural known. This is just one of thousands of things it does. Absolute poison in the body, amino acids that never existed. protein makeup blocks, ring structures, intermediate form protein.